so it was really difficult to begin with because it's hard to change perception. And so we made a strategic move to create videos for all of our talent. So hired professional videographers in Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, Nairobi, Kigali, Addis. And so when we talk to our clients about the type of talent, we actually show them a 2-minute video. And you see the change on people's faces. It's like, what? These are the people we can access? And it's actually become the best-selling tool we've ever had.
Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders into recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify to stay tuned for our weekly episodes. My name is Lydia, and joining us today is Gerard Holland, CEO of TalentMatch Africa. Pleasure to have you with us, Gerard.
Pleasure to be here, Lydia. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what inspired the creation of TalentMatch Africa, Gerard?
Yeah, so I'm an Australian born. I've spent time in the UK, but most of my time in Australia, and now I have a business that's running out of Africa. So it's not the normal path that someone would take, or it's definitely not a path that even 6-7 years ago I thought I would have taken. But my story is like anyone in business, I suppose. It takes a journey of its own without you even meaning to once you get into business, which is part of the fun and the excitement. But in 2016, I started a business to help international students to get jobs. So I was an outsourced CFO. One of my clients was in international education. And I got a bit of a taste of what the experience was like for international students in Australia. Some from Malaysia, there's a lot of Malaysian students that actually come to Melbourne for education. And I realised that the universities were generally more focused on providing a degree and not focused on providing a job. And my view was that if you were going to spend $80,000, $100,000 to get a degree, you're doing it because you want to get a job in that field so you can have a better life. But the ultimate outcome you want is the career-related employment, not a certificate. The certificate is a means to an end, and the end is a job. And the unis just weren't focused on that. And I don't think they were going to change. And so I thought, well, why don't I do something about it? So I quit my job, my nice corporate job, and started a business to help international students to get career-related employment. And I realized I need to solve this little paradox of how do I get experience if no one will give me experience? So getting in the system is the hardest thing. And I'm sure your listeners who are in recruitment, it's very hard to place grads. It's really much easier to place a React developer with 7 years experience than someone that's just finished a computer science degree and doesn't have real world experience yet. So getting that first bit of experience was critical. And once you're in the system, you stay in the system. And so to solve that paradox, we started focusing on internship placements. We could put more international students into internships, then they go in the experience bucket instead of the no experience bucket, and people always gravitate to people with experience. So we started doing that, and things started to grow. The universities became our clients. We went all over Australia, then into the UK, and then into Canada. And then in January 2020, I met Zondwa Mandela, who's the grandson of Nelson and Winnie Mandela. And Zondwa just asked me flat out, why the hell are we not in Africa? Why are we helping people in developed countries like Australia get jobs, and why aren't we where we're needed most, which is in the African continent? And at this stage, I'd never been to Africa. I didn't have an answer for him. But 6 weeks later, the pandemic happened and changed. Remote work became a thing. It's never going to go away. The way people work has changed. The way people look at global resourcing changed. And at the same time, the digital skills shortage started accelerating because businesses needed to digitalize what would have taken 10 years in 18 months. And so we needed people with more digital skills and tech capability. And the third thing, which has always been there, is an abundance of talent on the African continent. And I got to experience that firsthand when our borders opened up. Within a week, I was on a plane, started in Ethiopia and worked my way down to South Africa through Kenya and Rwanda. And I was blown away by the quality of the talent. I just could not believe how good these people were, but completely overlooked by the rest of the world. So I made a decision on that trip, and as I left that I was going to reorganize my business to make Africa a focus and to connect people from the African continent, university qualified people, into remote jobs with the USA, Australia, Canada, UK. Placed someone in China last week, someone in France, companies in France and China. And so before I die, I'd like to create 1 million jobs on the African continent. That's my personal mission. And that's how we've ended up with with an African business unit that's now our fastest growing part of the business.
So what's happened to the internship placement or that platform? Was it a platform or was it a program that you created?
Both. So a tech-enabled business. It still exists, absolutely still runs. I've brought another gentleman in, Tom Jamison, to run that part of the business. But yes, we built a tech platform to be able to facilitate internship placements. So that still runs, still growing, still doing really well. And then we have the second business unit, which is now TalentMatch Africa, which I'm now investing more of my time into.
So do the two platforms, or do the two businesses, do they connect at any point?
Yeah, well, we could go and talk to a business today, and they might want to take one of our international students from RMIT into their business as an on-site, and they might want to take one of our talent from South Africa at the same time. So we've got many clients to say, well, I need this role done on-site, but this role can be done remotely. Right. So we engage the African part and our local part, and we bring it together. And to be honest, that's the best type of placements we do, is when we can blend the two models.
And what unique challenges, and you spoke about the abundance of opportunities. It seems as though you've got the impression that it's completely underserved, the African talent pool. So what unique challenges or opportunities do you think characterize the African talent market space today?
Yeah, so on the challenges side, the biggest one is people's perceptions of Africa. And I was in this bucket. Like, before I actually got on a plane and spent time on the continent, my vision in my head was from the movies and from World Vision ads. And I'm ashamed of it now, because it is completely different to what the reality is. You're walking into cities that have skyscrapers everywhere, and just an abundance of activity and prosperity. And you don't think of that until you've been to Africa, because the news has painted this picture of us. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is changing perception of what Africa is. In terms of opportunities, there's an enormous amount. So you think about English capability is really strong. There's some countries that are French speaking, but the countries like South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, they speak better English than I speak without my Australian accent. Africans have really outgoing personalities, so they're not sort of shy people. They're full of energy, and they're vibrant in their natural personalities. They're not order takers, so they're very much critical thinkers. So it's not just sit back and wait and say nothing if something's wrong. They will speak up, which is a really important characteristic. And I think the most important one is, by nature, they're curious. And I think curious is the most important attribute for any staff member. If you are naturally a curious person, you want to dig into things, you want to understand things, you might go and find the latest AI tool and spend the weekend going down a rabbit hole to learn about how that could help the business, challenge the status quo. So that all comes quite naturally to people from the continent. And the big one too is they want to work. They know that opportunities are scarce. That we haven't had the same experience yet in Africa that's happened in, say, the Philippines, where there's an abundance of jobs have gone to the Philippines. So at the minute, it's very immature in these African countries. And so to get an opportunity for a job, they're going to grab with both hands, and they're going to do everything they can to keep it.
Now, looking at the talent and the vibrancy of that the talent pool within the African continent, and matching that with your business and talking to your clients about placing them elsewhere, I mean, what are some challenges that you may have faced in terms of conveying that value to your clients?
Yeah, so it was really difficult to begin with because it's hard to change perception. And so we made a strategic move to create videos for all of our talent. So hired professional videographers in Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, Nairobi, Kigali, Addis. And so when we talk to our clients about the type of talent, we actually show them a 2-minute video. And you see the change on people's faces. It's like, what? These are the people we can access? And it's actually become the best selling tool we've ever had, because that that one video, or might show them multiple, changes the narrative completely, and to the point of, I've been on calls before, and I was doing my pitch, I suppose, to a company in Chicago, and Jill, the lady, said, "Look, Gerard, you can stop. I've watched all your videos over a glass of wine. I want to interview Ludo, Kingsley, Faith, and someone else." So the videos completely changed perception. That's been a really big, a great tool for us to change those pushback.
Now, in terms of sectors that are showing the strongest demand, which sectors are really having the strongest demand for African talent in the global market right now?
So we're getting really good traction with customer-facing roles and communication-based roles, because English is so natural. Ability to build rapport becomes naturally, and really be able to have conversations in a really vibrant and friendly way with energy and enthusiasm. So they've been really good roles for us. Then there's all the tech and the data roles. I think that's just a symptom of the world in general. People need tech people and they need data people. So there's naturally a draw for that. There's some really strong tech people and particularly a lot of data people out of Kenya and South Africa. That could be data engineering to data visualization to running CRM systems. Finance accounting has been popular. Actually, we've placed quite a few financial controllers in Kenya, really good finance people and accounting people coming out of South Africa. And their accounting systems and bodies are quite similar. Another one's been popular has been business operations. We're finding that a lot of people come to us saying, I want an EA. I don't believe companies need EAs anymore. So the world's moved on from 15 years ago when I was a grad, and the partners at the firm that I worked at all had EAs, and they would mainly manage their calendar, they'd manage their inbox. We've got these phones now, right, where everything's on the go. People are flicking through their emails on a train. They're clearing stuff. They're managing their calendars. And so what people really need is business operations specialists that can help drive performance in the business and give capacity back to the people that they're working with. I see it as being a role that's not a chief of staff, but it's not an EA. It's sitting in between. And we're getting a lot of good traction out of those type of roles. So people that might have a commerce degree, a business degree, even economics type degree, coming from that business background, and then coming into a business and doing things like stakeholder management and making sure that things are being delivered on time. This could be sales support, but giving capacity to the people that they're working for, and it's been very popular and very effective.
Now, where do you see the greatest growth opportunities for African talent in the global marketplace?
So if you look at Africa as a whole, and the numbers are quite mind-blowing really, is that 2 billion people will live on the continent by 2050. So that's a third of the world's population. So just think about it in context, right? Think about China and India and these big economies. Africa is going to have a third of all people. And the average age of people on the continent right now is 19 years old. So you look at a market to trade with, you look at the market, just not market for resourcing, right? Even a market just to trade with. And so in an economy that big, that is growing quickly, there's a lot of great universities, a huge amount of people that are university qualified. So there is absolutely no shortage of talent. There's an abundance of it, and with such a diverse range of skills. So I think the growth in Africa is going to be, if we think about what happened in India in 40 years, in how India became a tech powerhouse, I think this will happen in Africa in 20. It'll happen twice as fast as the rest of the world starts to realise the quality of the talent. Obviously, there's a price point difference in a lot of these African markets with the cost of living being so low, and as the globe and resourcing managers realise just how affordable and how good the talent is, there's going to be a huge push over the next 20 years into resourcing from the continent.
And what metrics do you use to measure successful placements and maybe even client satisfaction?
Yeah, so we're pretty hands-on. Our model is that we do all the payroll, and everyone works from our office buildings too. It's not a work from home model. I don't believe work from home works in developing countries. So we've gone and procured office space in those hubs I mentioned before. And we then, in those office space, provide technical mentors, development coaches, so career coaches. We've got industrial psychologists on staff and wellness coaches and initiatives. So there's very much a wraparound service. It's not just grab someone, put him in a job, cross our fingers and hope for the best. Our performance is measured on how long we keep someone in a job with that company. So 12 months minimum. And my view, if I can get someone to 13 months, they have a job for life. As we all know, the employees want to keep people. Once you can get them there for long enough, they become very valuable to the business with the intellectual property that they develop. So long-term longevity is really important. We've also mapped all our roles against the Sophia framework, so skills for the information age. So we have talent that are assessed coming into our programs. They're all assessed against the Sophia framework, and then we use Sophia to manage progress. So we look at someone managing, going into year 1, 2, 3, 4 of a job, and using Sophia to map their growth and their competency level.
Now, experiencing Africa and entering a new market and having all these new perceptions of a huge talent pool that hasn't been really served, and what might be your most favorite or most memorable moment in recruitment when it comes to your experience here?
Yeah, there's lots. There's no greater joy I get in my life now than telling someone they've been offered a job. It's just a magical moment, and we've had people cry when we do that. And the reason being, in places like Africa, we haven't just helped that one person. We've helped a whole lot of people behind them, and that's brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles and cousins and communities, right? When you're putting someone into employment, particularly with an international company where they have a higher income earning potential. And the stats are that there's an amplified effect to females, because females give back into the community more than males do. So I've got many great memories of doing that, but I think, funnily enough, it's often the first one that always is the most memorable. And I still remember Bruno was a gentleman in Kenya. It was the first ever placement we did from someone in Africa with a company in Adelaide, Australia. And I still remember Kun, who actually facilitated that placement in our team, and I was in the boardroom with a few other people, and Kun came through almost crying, and just announced that Bruno just got offered a role, and we all cheered and high fived, and it was a really memorable moment for us because it was the first placement out of Africa. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the first place we've done in the whole business, but out of Africa, that was the first placement. So I'll never forget. Bruno, who's still in our program and still working and doing a great job, and he's a real success story. But yeah, I just remember the look on Kun's face, the tears in her eyes, because she was so proud that she'd changed the life of this young man who's now doing Africa proud.
Now, for someone who's starting out in the recruitment space today, Gerard, what advice would you give them?
So the world's changing, as we all know. The way we do work is changing. You can't go a day without hearing about AI, and AI is going to steal our jobs. And the same rhetoric has been said around the internet. But the way we work after the internet is different to the way we worked before the internet. And I think with AI tools, the same things is happening. I think it creates an enormous amount of opportunity. I don't think it's going to take people's jobs. It will make people more efficient. So the people that aren't using the right tools will be the ones that get left behind, because all of a sudden one person can do the role of three. But what we do changes. And so for someone coming into recruitment, I think it's never been more important to understand what businesses' problems are. So sitting down with a business and understanding where their pain point, spending 45 minutes and just digging as deep as you can into that business and understanding where their blockages are, where their pain points are, and then being able to recommend the right type of person to help unblock that. Now, a lot of the time now, that could be how to use AI tools to be able to create automation inside a business, as an example, or what role is being done that could be done more efficiently. So I think the traditional roles maybe aren't exactly the right fit anymore. So once you can understand what the problems in a business are, then start thinking about, okay, what skills do we need talent to have to help plug those problems, but solve them in a different way than was probably done before. And I think that is only going to accelerate.
Well, thank you very much, Gerard, for your insights and also your time today. So for those who are listening in, who might be curious to pick up a point or two of what you've just shared, where can they contact you?
So LinkedIn is the best. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So Gerard Holland is my LinkedIn handle. So yeah, grab me there. Feel free to connect. And so you heard the chat with Lydia, and more than happy to connect.
Well, thanks again, Gerard. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and for all your insights that you've shared with the audience today. And we have been in conversation with Gerard Holland, CEO of TalentMatch Africa. Thank you for joining us, and remember to subscribe to stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.